The Group of Seven, shortened as G7, is an intergovernmental political and economic forum consisting of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and the United States. The G7 countries make up around 10% of the world's population and generate 49.3% of global gross domestic product. They are among the biggest contributors to the funding for international organizations and account for about 75% of the global official development assistance recorded by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. G7 are among IMF advanced economies, and here is what each one of them has to bring to the table of the bloc, ranking the countries from the poorest to the richest based on their GDPs from the IMF statistics. Number 7 is Canada. With a GDP of $2.24 trillion, Canada is the poorest country among the G7 members. This translates to 4.54% of the G7 combined GDP and 2.06% of the world's GDP. Canada is the 10th biggest economy in the world. It has a population of 39.742 million people, which is 0.49% of the world's population. It's the 38th most populous country in the world and at position 7 within G7. Number 6 is Italy. It has a GDP of $2.33 trillion. This translates to 4.73% of the G7 combined GDP and 2.14% of the world's total GDP. It's the 9th largest economy in the world with a population of 59.343 million people, which is 0.73% of the world's population. Italy is the world's 25th most populous country and 6th within G7. Number 5 is France. With a GDP of $3.13 trillion, France contributes 6.35% of the G7 combined GDP and 2.87% of the world's total GDP. It's the 7th richest country in the world with a population of 66.549 million people, which is 0.82% of the world's population. Number 4, the United Kingdom. It has a GDP of $3.50 trillion, which makes it the 6th largest economy in the world. Its GDP is 7.1% of that of G7 and 3.1% of the world's total GDP. With a population of 69.318 million people, the United Kingdom is the 21st most populous country in the world. Number 3 is Japan. It has a GDP of $4.11 trillion, which translates to 8.34% of G7 combined GDP and 3.77% of the global GDP. Japan is the 4th largest economy in the world with a population of 123.753 million people. It's G7's second largest market and 12th most populous country in the world. Number 2 is Germany. With a GDP of $4.59 trillion, Germany is the 2nd largest economy within G7 and 3rd largest economy in the world. Its GDP is 9.31% of that of G7 and 4.21% of the world's total GDP. It's home to 1.04% of people in the world with a population of 84.552 million, which makes it the 19th most populous country in the world and G7's 3rd market. Number 1 is the United States. It's not a surprise that the United States is the richest of the G7 members because it's also the number 1 largest world's economy. With a GDP of $28.78 trillion, the United States contributes more than half of the G7 combined GDP with a percentage of 58.38. It has a population of 343.427 million people, making it the 1st market within G7 and 3rd most populous country in the world. During the G7 summits, the heads of state and government discuss key global policy issues, exchange views and work together to develop constructive solutions. Over the years, a closely woven process of political consultation between the governments of the member countries has developed around the summit meetings. For example, ministers from various ministries have their own meetings to discuss specific issues and global challenges. The groundwork for the outcomes of the summits is done by government officials known as shapers or senior negotiators and sous shapers. Preparation for ministerial meetings is carried out as needed by working groups. In addition to the summits and ministerial meetings that are part of the G7 framework, other publicity events or expert dialogues on the priority topics of the respective presidency may also be organized.